بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا وشفيع ذنوبنا سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر، وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. Inshallah, we are going to continue the part 3 of the session of transportation and in shaded vehicles, transportation under the shaded vehicles for a muhrim person, men. Let's take question number 14. These are all Q&As. Rulings we are done, of this shaded tadlil. But we're discussing scenarios, they pop up normally. Like for example, question 14. Is it permissible to use a electrical lift? That means elevator or lift, which are used in the uh, buildings, okay, uh, where the muhrim people, they stay. So they will go into the lift, shaded, it's transporting. So does the shaded means of transportation apply here or not? He says, yes, it's permissible. Okay, there's no problem. Number 15, question number 15. هل يجوز التضليل في مكة عند الوصول إليها? When you arrive in Makkah, is it permissible to travel under the means of, or commute under the means of transportation? Remember, say this says intercity, no. So these are application. وفي عرفات. So I arrive in Makkah, intercity transportation. I arrive in Arafat, intercity transportation. وفي عرفات حال الوقوف فيها. In Mina, I'm staying in Mina, I'm staying in Arafat, I'm staying in Makkah in the state of Ihram. So وهو في منى حال المبيت. Intercity, it's all about intercity transportation. So, or transporting from one city to another city. He says, لا يجوز التضليل. It is not permissible to travel under the means of transportation, shaded means of transportation. بين المشاعر المقدسة, from Makkah to Arafat, Arafat to Muzdalifah, Muzdalifah to Mina, Mina to Makkah. No, that is from city to city. Sayyidina, what about intercity? Okay. وأما عدم جوازه في أثناء التردد في المكان الذي ينزل فيه المحرم من مكة المكرمة وعرفات أو منى أو غيرهما فمبني على الاحتياط. Mentioned before. From city to city, it's fatwa, like others. But intercity, Sayyid al-Khuy says there's no problem. Sayyid al-Sistan says, mushkil, big mushkil, he has big problem to allow that shading, even traveling intercity. So he said that is based on obligatory precaution. So there is a prohibition. But that prohibition of traveling intercity inside the cities in the state of Ihram is based on the obligatory precaution. Let's take question 16. It's all same ruling repeating. That I arrived in Makkah, I'm not going to repeat it. I arrived in Makkah and then I want to go to Masjid al-Haram in this buses. Intercity. لا يجوز ذلك لا يجوز له ذلك على الأحوط لزوما. On the base obligatory precaution, not permissible. Question number 17. Let's say somebody did not know. وقد فعل ذلك جهلا. It's a follow-up question of the previous one. So somebody did it in intercity. Okay. وقد فعل ذلك جهلا منه بحرمته. فلتثبت عليه الكفارة. Will the kafara be applicable? Remember the ruling of kafara. Intentionally you do it, there's kafara. Be it you are compelled to, like in the rain, you cannot get out of the plane, or even if you are in the bus It may be difficult. Even in the car, it may be dangerous. You can't get out just when the rain falls. Okay? You just have to refer to someone else and relieve yourself from the kafara. So remember this issue, that the problem is intentionally. So intentionally, you violate the ihram, there's kafara in many cases. Some of the, if it was unintentionally, unknowingly, based on ignorant, there's no kafara, except for four things. We had discussed this previously. Okay, those four things, among them is hair falling down, perfume, they have kafara in any ways, but the kafara is less for unintentional. So here he says he did not know, he was traveling intercity, thinking that the only from city to city kafara is obligatory. So he did not know that he has to pay kafara. وَقَدْ فَعَلَ ذَلِكَ جَهْلًا مِنْهُ بِحُرْمَتِهِ. And he did it, he did not know it was prohibited based on the obligatory precaution, obviously. فَهَلْ تَثْبُتْ عَلَيْهِ الْكَفَّارَةِ. Will the kafara be applicable upon him? Yes, the penalty will be applicable upon him, that person. Okay? If it was intentional. But if it was unintentional, unknowingly, there'll be no kafara. So it says, لا تثبت كفارة التضليل مع الجهل بالحكم. Kafara of shading unknowingly, not knowing the ruling, unintentionally, there is no kafara for the person who is unaware about the ruling. And then ruling 18, question 18 is similar to the question 13, 12 and 13. So I'm just going to be quick on it. Again, the whole question 18 is about the intercity thing. And Sayyid al-Khoi, Makkah being old Makkah, Sayyid Sistani, Makkah is all big Makkah. So can these people of Sayyid al-Khoi, when they travel to Aziziyah, to Masjid al-Haram, it is considered traveling from city to city. They will have to pay kafara, followers of Sayyid al-Khoi. Followers of Sayyid al-Sistani, they don't. So do you allow us to refer to you in this issue for considering Makkah broader than the Makkah of Sayyid al-Khoi? He said, La majala lidhalik. There's no room for that. Okay. He mentioned methodological difference. Find someone who is aligned with Sayyid al-Khoi and gives you expansion of the Makkah. هل يجوز المعتمر اختيار الميقات الذي يجبر فيه على ركوب السيارة المظللة بعد الإحرام مع تيسر الميقات الذي يمكنه التخلص فيه من ذلك. Interesting question. Let's say I need to enter the state of Ihram. I chose a miqat which will compel upon me to travel under means of transportation. And I had an option to choose a miqat where I don't need to travel under the means of transportation. I could easily get rid of it. Okay. Let's say miqat which is closer to Makkah. Let's say Jeddah, for example. Let's say hypothetically, I don't know about the rules. Let's say from Jeddah, you are able to get a truck and just sit inside the truck and in the state of Ihram and come to Makkah. For followers of in the daytime and nighttime. For followers of Sayyid Sistani, if they want to travel in the daytime, okay, they will have to get this truck. If they travel in nighttime, they will have to what? They don't have to go on the truck. So he says, هل يجوز للمعتمر? Is it permissible for the person who's going to perform Umrah, choosing the miqat, اختيار الميقات الذي يجبر فيه, miqat in which he will be compelled to travel into a vehicle which is shaded, like closed vehicle, after entering the state of Ihram. مع تيسر الميقات, knowing that there is another miqat where he does not need to travel under the means of shaded means of transportation, so he can get rid of this situation. So can he do, like, can he enter the state of ihram from miqat where he'll be compelled to travel under the shaded means of transportation, having an option of another miqat that will not compel you to travel under the shaded means of transportation? So he says, لا يبعد جواز اختياره له. For me, in my لا يبعد يعني there must be someone who might consider that not right. But he said, in my opinion, according to me, according to my methodology and research and this and that, there is no problem in choosing that miqat. Okay? The miqat in which you will be compelled. ولكن تجب عليه الكفارة مع حصول التضليل ولو عن اضطرار. However, he will have the penalty will be obligatory upon him, even if he was compelled to. Okay, we said for compelled, the situation which is you are compelled to, there is penalty. The penalty is exempt from the one who did not know the ruling or was unaware, jahil. Ruling number 20. هل يجوز الإحرام للعمرة المفردة المستحبة مع العلم بحصول الاضطرار إلى التضليل? Is it permissible to enter the state of ihram of mufrada, the recommended one, knowing that he is going to travel, compelled to travel under the shaded means of transportation? Is it permissible for me to do like that? Like what happens? People, they do their umrah al-mufrada, like the annual umrah, recommended umrah, they do. And they stay in Makkah for 5 days. What happened? The mood comes, okay, I did my umrah. I cannot do 2 umrahs in one lunar month. Okay. So I want to do another umrah. I will do it with niyabat, by the intention, niyabat of someone else. Okay. My father, my mother, even if they're living, you see, that doesn't matter. But niyabat is okay. But let that be niyabat specific. Don't say kul mu'minin mu'minat. No, you have to at least mention one mu'min from the kul mu'minin mu'minat. So what happens that you're going to do niyabat. So you are in Makkah. You don't have to go all the far away miqat like Juhfa, Masjid al-Shajara, even if it was close to Makkah, such as miqat of Ta'if, or even parallel point to outside Jeddah, or Jeddah with Nadhr. No, you can go out on the border of Haram. We have explained this in the chapter of miqat, in the border of Haram. So in the border of Haram, Masjid al-Tan'im is the closest masjid where many people they go. So you enter the state of Ihram. I mean, you wear the dress of Ihram in the hotel. You do the ghusl, you wear the dress of Ihram. Now ghusl might become invalid. That's fine. You did the thawab. So you get into the taxi. No labbaik said, no intention said. You tell him, take me to the miqat. You go to the miqat. You tell him, wait for me 10 minutes, 5 minutes. Okay. So he will wait for you. So you will go there. You'll do the wudu, because according to the fatwa of Samaraja, this wudu, by doing ghusl and entering the shaded means of transportation before locking yourself, the ghusl becomes invalid. So just do your wudu there. Do the two mustahab 6 rak'at. You want to do that, fine. You don't want to do that, you have got 10 minutes taken from the driver. So you can do 6 rakat. And then enter the state of ihram, labbaik Allahumma labbaik, sit back into the car. If you are follower of Sayyid al-Khuwayi, kafara. Follower of Sayyid Sistani, raining, kafara on the basis of obligatory precaution. Follower of Sayyid Sistani, no raining, no kafara. Follower of Sistani, your ihram was done in daytime, you're traveling back daytime, kafara. Okay. So can I do that traveling under the means of shaded transportation in Umrah mustahab? Because I am putting myself in violation. I want to please Allah, but I'm on the other side violating. He says, yes, you can travel under the means of transportation, but you'll have to pay kafara. هل يجوز الإحرام للعمرة المفترضة? Is it permissible to enter the state of ihram for the recommended annual umrah mufrada, individual umrah, not umrah of hajj, مع العلم, knowing بحصول الاضطرار إلى التضليل, knowing that I will be compelled to be in a shaded means of transportation? He says يجوز. He says it is permissible. Okay, let's take question number 21. Okay, some people, they say they are under the means of transportation. Khalas, I travel. Now let me travel again. I'm going to pay kafara anyways, you see. So what the heck? Let me just continue traveling under the means of transportation. No. The more you repeat intentionally and not compelled to, the more you are committing sin. Remember, violation is not about kafara. From 25, there are some areas there are no kafara. You have to do istighfar. So if there is one kafara, that doesn't mean that you can repeat now khalas intentionally. No. If you find moment where you are not compelled to be under the shaded means of transportation, then avoid it. If you don't avoid it, kafara, one kafara per ihram is fine. But haram will continue. So there's many people, they don't understand this. So this is what this ruling is discussing about. إذا اضطر المحرم إلى التضليل بعض الوقت. In certain times, the muhrim person was compelled to travel under to commute under or travel under the means of transportation, shaded means of transportation. فهل يجوز له الاستمرار في التضليل ما لم يخرج من إحرامه ولو مع ارتفاع الضرورة? So is it permissible for him to continue traveling into the shaded vehicles, okay, as long as in an ihram, even if the compelling necessity is removed? That means you should get out of the shade. لا يجوز له الاستمرار في التضليل مع ارتفاع موجبه. It is not permissible for a person to continue traveling in the shaded means of transportation once the compelling necessity is over. So what's Sayyidina if he's continuing? ولكن لو استمر فيه لم تثبت عليه كفارة أخرى. However, if he continues in that, he will not have to pay second kafara. You see, one kafara per ihram, but then he's violating. Okay, that's the problem. It is not permissible. La yajuz. He's committing haram. La yajuz mean you should not be. It is not permissible. That means you are going to commit haram. Okay, question number 22. إذا اضطر المحرم إلى ستر رأسه بعصابة لمرض. If a mu'min covers his head due to the sickness with a strap or band or tighten. Remember, we discussed this because covering the head is different than traveling under the shaded means of transportation. These two rulings are two different rulings. So that ruling was what? Covering. Now here the questioner asks, if a muhrim, a person who's in the state of ihram, covers his head with a cloth, okay, band tight for the headache or for the sickness or whatever compelling reason for sickness, says يجوز له التضليل أيضا. فهل يجوز له التضليل أيضا كدخول السيارة مثقفة نهارا? Now his head is covered, So is it permissible for him to travel under the shaded means of transportation in the daytime? Because his head is not now exposed. So the answer is no, that is separate. This is separate. It's not about the head here. It's about your head and the chest and the body. Okay, it is only, and that is covering the head. This is shading the head. Giving la yajuzu. It is not permissible. فإن التضليل فإن التضليل وستر الرأس محرمان مستقلان. Okay, because the traveling under the shaded means of transportation and covering the head, they are two independent prohibitions of ihram. Question number 23. So now Muhrim has an option either to travel, he has to travel under the shaded means of transportation, but he has an option to either the head or the sides. Okay, either the head comes under the shade or the sides. So what should he choose? So this is the question. إذا اضطر المحرم إلى التضليل من الشمس ودار أمره بين الاستظلال بما يكون فوق رأسه والاستظلال بما يكون على أحد جانبه فليتخير بينهما. If a muhrim person was compelled to travel in the daytime, okay, in the daytime when the sun is there, in the daytime under the sun, so the shaded means of transportation are shading him from the sun. وَدَارَ أَمْرُهُ بَيْنَ الْإِسْتِدْلَالِ, and he had an option either to shade on his top or either to shade from one of his sides, like bus sides. So does he have an option to choose the head or the one of the sides? He says يلزم في مفروض السؤال اختيار التضليل الجانبي حيث أن حرمته مبنية على الاحتياط الوجوبي. If you have a two option, then let your head be exposed and you can allow the sides to be covered. Why? Because he said he's only one, either this, either that. So let the head be exposed. Exposing the head is fatwa. Exposing the side is ihtiyat wajib. So he says, choose the fatwa. That means apply the fatwa. Don't shade your head. Shade your sides. Sides are ihtiyat wajib. So the choice should be preferring to not to prevent your head from being under shade. حيث أن حرمته. He says in the hypothesis or in this question, a person should choose to shade the sides because shading the sides is based on the obligatory precaution. And وينبغي أن يعلم بأن التضليل بما يكون فوق الرأس لا يتحقق بما يكون في اقتضاء التضليل من دون أن يكون التضليل بالفعل. Okay, so it needs to be actually the head is actually being under the shade. So he says, and it is necessary to know بأن التضليل بما يكون فوق الرأس لا يتحقق بما يكون فيه اقتضاء التضليل من دون أن يكون التضليل بالفعل. It is not a potential shading. No, it is a real shading. Yani your head is going to be really shaded under the roof of the bus or roof of the car or roof of something. Shaded means of transportation. How is that Sayyidina? Can you give us example? Yes. فلو ركب المحرم سيارة سقفها عال. If a person who's in the state of ihram gets on a car which has high roof, okay, high roof, that means windows are wide, والشمس تشرق على رأسه, and the sun shines on his head. The sun rays shine on his head. وصدره, and on his chest. من بعض الجوانب, from the sides. فلا يحرم عليه الجلوس في السيارة المذكورة. Then it is not prohibited for him to sit in this type of car. Why? Though the car is closed, okay, but there is no shading. So what is the real shading is not there. Though he is under the shaded means of transportation, but due to the lofty windows, and some of the buses, their windows, they go glass, they go until this side. Okay, so the sun ray is coming from the sides, shining on his head and the body. So this type of shaded means of transportation are okay, because these are not preventing you from the sun rays shining on your body, on your head and the chest. Yes. So he says, uh, so in reality, remember, in reality, there should be tadlil, not just like um, just any shaded means of transportation. No, shaded means of transportation in which he is not exposed to the sun, neither his body is exposed to the sun. But if the shaded means of transportation, they were lofty, with the lofty roof, and the sides were all the way glass, and those glass were high in a way that the sun, that the guy's head and chest is exposed to the sun, okay, then it is not prohibited to sit in this type of car, because the roof does not prevent the sun rays from shining over his head and his body. لأن السقف المذكور لا يظلل عن الشمس وعليه تفادي التضليل الجانبي على الأحوط لزوما. So here he says, if he's in this type of means of transportation, then what's he says he needs to avoid the side shades on the basis of obligatory precaution. So let's say the roof was lofty, and the glass of the roof window, or the glass, the glass is not only window, there is upper part glass, then there's a window. So all this thing was covering where? Until his shoulder. That means his chest is exposed to the sun. Okay. So he says, on the basis of obligatory precaution, allow the sides to be exposed. That means you'll have to stand up or sit on the support of the seat, in order for your sides, your chest is getting is exposed to the sun. So this scenario is like, you have to picture a bus, lofty ceiling, roof, sides allowing the sun to enter in a way that his head and body is exposed, but sides are lofty, okay, that the sun ray does not completely, the chest is not completely exposed. His head is exposed, but the sides are preventing from the chest to be exposed. So what happens? He says that is obligatory precaution. Okay, obligatory precaution. He needs to avoid that kind of shading. So now he's no option. I mean, the head is okay, just he needs to stand up or sit on a bit top, that he's above that edge of the window, which is preventing the chest from being exposed to the sun. So this is something which is the gist of this ruling. Question number 24. Okay. So someone who enters the state of ihram of mufrada, umrah mufrada, and he has a choice between two routes taking him into Mecca. In one route, he will be forced to be under the shaded means of transportation. Another route, no. He can, maybe it's not a highway route, it's from the villages going past one village, another village, because highways, they have surveillance. So now in this route, he can rent a truck, and inside that truck, he can sit and expose himself in the daytime. For Sayyidi Sistani, whenever we are talking about shade, it's all about daytime. At night time he can. So here, إذا من أحرم للعمرة المفردة ودار أمره بين سلوك طريق يستلزم التضليل وسلوك طريق آخر. So two paths. He can choose one of this. وقد دعا إلى وقد دعي إلى مرافقة الحملة في الطريق الأول لغرض إرشادهم. So now this person, he's compelled to go, or he was invited to go with the group, with the bus, which is going to take the route where he's going to be compelled to go under the shaded means of transportation, to guide them the rules of Hajj. الطريق الأول لغرض إرشادهم في مناسك عمرتهم. فهل يسوغ له ذلك? So just going to guide the people taking the route in which he was invited to go with them, in which they will have to go under the shaded means of transportation in the daytime, for Sayyidi Sistani, obviously. So does his choice of choosing that to guide them is okay or not? He said, ما ذكر ليس له مسوغا في حد ذاته. By itself, just to go and teach the manasik al-Hajj, he took the route to travel under the shaded means of transportation. That does not qualify him to go. That means he has committed haram in itself, unless if there were another reasons to avoid the haram. But he has committed a violation. Obviously, this compelled, non-compelled, you have to pay kafara. The issue is now, did he commit haram or not? So he said that does not give him the permission to choose that route, because he has an option. The hypothesis is it's an option to either choose this route. But they invited him to guide him for Manasik al-Hajj, to be with them. So he went with them. This invitation to guide for Manasik al-Hajj, does it qualify him to choose that route and he will not be committing haram? He says, no, that does not qualify him in itself, unless if there are other reasons for him to go with them, as he was compelled to go with them for some compelling reasons. Like, for example, his wife was there, for example, a weak person was there, his weak father was in that bus, some kind of compelling reason, not just because they invited to teach them Manasik al-Hajj. Question 25. Yes. So question number 25 looks at the legal aspect of the following the law. So if a person who's in the state of ihram is going to face legal consequences during during his journey, if he travels in an open vehicle, like a truck or bus or some open roofless bus or something like that, or a truck, or on the top of the bus, like the luggage area. Does this qualify him to travel in the shaded means of transportation from the beginning? Because he knows in the middle of the path, he may be subjected to legal consequences, legal action. So he says, إذا احتمل أن يقع في ضرر معتد به جراء ذلك وكان الاحتمال بدرجة يصدق معه الخوف جاز له ما ذكر. if there was a probability, okay, that he is going to be subjecting himself to the harm, which is considered amount of harm by doing this, and that probability was to the level that it can cause fear. Probability sometimes causes fear, sometimes doesn't cause fear. So he was afraid that he might be stopped and he might be subjected, and legal action or legal consequences can be taken against him. So he says, then yes. Then no kafara, no kafara is there. We are not talking of, we are talking about haram or not haram, permissible or not permissible. It's not about kafara, going against these 25 things. If you don't have an excuse, you are committing haram. So we are talking, will it be haram or not? Will it be permissible or not? He says, yes, if there is a fear, consider amount of fear, or a possibility was in a level that it causes fear, then yes, fear of being harmed. Then yes, he can choose to go into the shaded means of transportation. Question number 26. إذا لم يتيسر التجنب عن التضليل المحرم إلا بالصعود على سقف السيارة. If one cannot avoid the shaded means of transportation except by going on the top of the bus. Remember that luggage carriage? وهو مما يمنع عنه القانون في السعودية. And that is something which the law is against it in Saudi. فماذا يصنع المحرم? So what should he do? The answer: لا يجب الصعود عليه مع خوف ترتب الضرر على ذلك ولو من جهة مخالفة القانون المذكور. It is not permissible for him to get on the top of the bus with the fear that he might be harmed uh, by doing that, even by going against the law, against the law mentioned. بل, he said, rather, لا يجوز إذا كان الضرر المحتمل شديدا. Okay. Uh, However, I mean, rather, it is not permissible if the probability of being harmed was severe. وعندئذ يجوز التضليل. See, يجوز, from لا يجوز, يجوز. Okay. In that case, it is permissible for him to travel under the shaded means of transportation. ولا بد من الكفارة. But Sayyidina was compelled. We said you are compelled, you're not compelled. You do something with your own intention. Even if you're compelled, you have to pay kafara. The only exempt is the one who did not know the rule about kafara. That's the person who is exempt in this case. But or somebody did it unintentionally, undeliberately. But this is deliberate. Yes, you have an excuse, but you deliberately did it. So لا يجوز الصعود إذا كان الضرر وعندئذ يجوز التضليل ولا بد من الكفارة. The kafara will be. So we are talking about permissibility and not permissibility and haram. So we are trying to see that I don't want to go and be in this pure state of worship and yet do something which Allah has not allowed me to do. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Yes. Question. It's repeated, same. Like إذا كان تنقل محرم سيارة نقل البضائع, those um, goods transporting, the trucks, okay? The trucks was not permissible. Transporting in the trucks was not permissible, and finding roofless buses was difficult. So it is permissible to go into these shaded means of transportation and pay penalty. He says, لا يجوز إلا, it is not permissible to avoid the open trucks or open buses unless إذا كان ركوب سيارات النقل محفوفا بالمخاطر. It was with associated with dangers. Okay, traveling on the top of the bus or in the trucks or this kind of things was associated with harm. So لا يجوز, no, you cannot choose to just travel in the buses and pay kafara unless if traveling in these types of opened vehicles was associated with dangers such as كخطر, such as the danger of خطر المنع من مواصلة سيرها إلى مكة المكرمة لو تنبهت لها شرطة المرور في أثناء الطريق وعدم تيسير الوصول إلا بأجرة باهظة مجحفة بحال المحرم. So he said, unless if traveling in these open trucks or open buses, roofless buses, was associated with dangers such as the dangers of being prevented from continuing to go to Makkah, like for legal action and this and that. So لو تنبهت لها شرطة المرور في أثناء الطريق, if the traffic police realized during the path, you may be stopped from going to Makkah. You may be some legal actions might be taken against you. So if there was this possibility, okay, of harm, we said in the previous, you should not. وعدم تيسر الأتوبيسات المكشوفة, and the roofless buses was not available except with the highly wages, like the rental was very high in a way that a person who's in the state of ihram could not afford it. Ruling number 28. السيارة المكشوفة المهيئة السيارة المكشوفة المهيئة للمحرمين من مسجد الشجرة إذا كانت من قبل سيارات الحمل الكبيرة حيث تكون جدرانها عالية وليس فيها مقاعد للجلوس, فإذا أراد الحاج أن يجلس على أرضيتها. Okay. So some of these trucks, the trucks with they transport the horses and the cows. So their walls are a bit higher. The trucks back. So the walls are it's open, sides are open, but the wall is a bit higher. So if you are traveling in those means of transportation from Masjid al-Shajara and you are standing, okay, because there are no chairs there. It's a truck for loads, for goods to be transported. So there are no chairs and you are standing and now you get exhausted. 4 hours from Makkah to Medina, from Medina to Makkah, sorry, from Masjid al-Shajara to Makkah. 4 hours. So you got exhausted. Now you want to sit. If you sit, these lofty walls are going to be covering you from the sides. Okay? From the top, you are under the shade, but from the sides, it's covering your body. So إذا اضطر إلى الجلوس الذي يستتر منه عن الشمس. So yeah, the answer is, can he sit down? إذا اضطر إلى الجلوس الذي يستتر معه الشمس معه عن الشمس يستتر معه أو يستتر معه عن الشمس جاز ولكن لا يعفى من الكفار على الأحوط, on the basis of obligatory precaution. Why? Because the side shading kafara is obligatory precaution. So it says if he was compelled to sit in a way that it will be concealing him from the sun, then kafara will not be exempted on the basis of penalty, will not be exempted on the basis of obligatory precaution. Question number 29. Let's say he is in the open truck. Now remember, we are talking about haram and halal. Kafara, we know if you get compelled into these necessities, there's a kafara. but you'll not be a sinner. So the whole idea in these rulings are many times, it's not about kafara, it's about, is it a sin or not? Am I compelled or not? Is it my majburi or not? Okay. So هل التأذي من تيار الهواء? You know, like when you are in the, and we have seen that, we have seen that hot air while you're traveling in the means, shaded means, no, in the open, sorry, in the open trucks, and that loo and that hot wind blows on your face, and subhanallah. Those were the days, if you do the Umrah and Hajj, you get rewarded highly. Now you're spoiled and pampered most of these, and yet people complain. You have not seen the Hajj which we did in our days, okay, or Umrahs. So be thankful, at least appreciate. Ask elders how did they do their state of ihram traveling. It was not easy. Like sheeps and goats going into these trucks wearing this white cloth, and anyhow, so that loo, now this currents of winds, hot winds or very cold winds, they might cause a person to become sick. And in Islam, no, Islam doesn't want you to become sick. So he says that if the harm was going to be caused by the currents of the wind or the wind blowing during the car, during the journey, أثناء سير السيارة, while the car is moving, the uncovered car is moving, uh, is it an excuse for this person to get to travel into this shaded means of transportation in a way that he cannot travel at night? So at night he cannot travel. In daytime he can travel. In daytime, if he finds this truck, so the weather is in a way that it's either hot, either cold. The guy, the wind blowing on his face, he's going to become sick. So he says, إذا كان التأذي منه شديدا, if the harm is going to be severe, بحيث لا يتحمل عادة, in a way that it is intolerable normally, okay, in average, in norm. Normally it's not, and average is not tolerable. Most of the people, they get sick. He might not get sick. So he's giving you a probability. You might get sick because if the norm, if you are sure that you are going to get sick, then yes, you can choose your, but he's giving more in a general aspect. For in norm, general, most of the people, they get, in average, they get sick, in average cases. فَلَا بَأْسَ بِهِ. So there is no harm in it. What does that mean? No kafara? No kafara will be there. We are talking about it will not be haram to travel into shaded means of transportation. So if there was harm in general, severe harm, وإلا فلا بد من تحمله. Otherwise, he should tolerate it. Okay, he should tolerate that hot air and cold air and coming, if it is not going to cause you severe harm. Okay, harm which is intolerable. So 30, question number 30. يشتد تلوث الجو في عصر يوم عرفة في عرفات وليلة يوم العيد في المزدلفة. He's talking about the pollution. Okay, like you're in an open truck, and the trucks, the buses and everything is going slowly, like we said, inch by inch or foot by foot, very slow. And as they turn on the car, they hit the gas, and the puffs of diesel come. And those poor people who are exposed in this wind, the whole area becomes polluted by smog, a kind of like you breathe like carbon monoxide and those kind of things. So these people who are in the truck, as this bus goes or goes by side, some of the buses, they have their nozzles of exhaust on the side. So once they go bypass you and you are sitting in this truck, those truck vans, those small trucks which are lower, okay, and you are in the haram and enjoying this nice weather, and they come and they dark black smoke comes and puff 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 goes. So what will happen to you? So does that allow you to sit inside the shaded means of transportation because it is harmful? So he says that in this question number 30, in a way that the Hujjaj might get the pulmonary problems and pulmonary inflammations, okay, due to this dust and gases which are coming out from the exhaust. فهل يجوز عندئذ? So do you give permission? يجوز. So we're not talking about kafara. Kafara will be there. Is it permissible then to sit inside the... So even I need to make this observation. Choosing to sit and travel under the means of transportation is not an easy option or option. You have to think 10 times, is there any other way or not? Obviously, based on our experiences, those options are not there. They're rarely, because now everywhere there are shaded means of transportation and government is prohibiting. So it's out of the question to even think about choosing it in an open truck or open bus or whatever. It's not like before. So he says that man khafat tadarrur, if somebody feared the harms, severe harm, min jarra'ihi, due to these, due to traveling on the top, okay, or in the open means of transportation, in a way which is considered any common consideration that it is harm bil miqdad, or in here it's not common consideration, it is bil miqdad al mu'tad, considered amount of harm. What type of harm? Can you give us a level, Sayyidina? الذي تجري العادة بتحمل مثله. So if the amount was considered to be normally tolerable, then you should not go into this shaded means of transportation. But he says, if it was not لم تجري العادة بتحمل مثله, normally people, they cannot tolerate such type of exhaust and fumes and they get sick, pulmonary edema or whatever edemas, pulmonary problems, infections. They get a lot of these things after Hajj. جاز له الدخول في السيارة المسقفة. It would be permissible for him to enter the shaded vehicle للتستر من الشمس والمطر. Okay, to cover himself from the sun or from the rain. وأما غيره فلا يجوز له ذلك. Other than this, it is not permissible. Other than what, Sayyidina? Other than this harm which is not tolerable in general. Okay? There was a fear, number one. Fear of what? Fear of harm, considered amount of harm, which is not tolerable normally. Fear, harm, not tolerable normally. Other than this, if there is a fear, but harm is tolerable, no. Stick on the top of the bus. Fear, there is harm, but there's no fear, okay? And is tolerable. Stick to the top. So three things. There is a fear of harm. In a way, it is not tolerable. Then you can travel inside, but then penalty will be there. It's again about talawuth, pollution. pollution on the evening of Arafah, on the night of Eid, and Hajjaj, they get this pulmonary inflammation because of this ghazat. This, I'm repeating this, sorry. And this question number 31. He says, you mentioned, Sayyidina, in ruling number 270 in Manasik al-Hajj, that if it rains, prohibition of traveling under the shaded means of transportation because of the rain, that prohibition is based on obligatory precaution. In ruling number 273, you mentioned that the penalty is based on fatwa. If you travel under the means of transportation, if it was raining, then you have to pay kafara as a fatwa. بلزوم الكفارة في التضليل. Unless if you refer to another marja, and if it rains, then there will be no kafara. So the rain prohibition of traveling under this means of transport, preventing yourself or shading yourself from rain is prohibited based on ihtiyat wajib. So he said, why is the kafara fatwa and not ihtiyat wajib? So what are the because he says it is authentic narration which mention that the authentic narration indicates that there's a kafara if there is a rain. If rain falls, there's a kafara. What are the nas al-sahih? It was mentioned, narrated in an authentic narration, that the kafara, the penalty, will be applied for a person who is shading himself from the rain. So that is number one, that there is. But he says, وَلَمْ يَرِدْ فِي حُرْمَةِ التَّسَتُّرْ مِنْهُ ذَلِكَ. But there is no narration in this considering that it is haram to prevent yourself from the rain. However, he says, so we have two things. We need evidence for prohibition and traveling under the means of transportation when it rains, and evidence for the penalty of traveling under the means of transportation if it rains. So one is prohibition itself, another is what? Another is the kafara, the penalty. So he says there is a text, there is a hadith, sahih hadith, authentic hadith for the kafara. But the hadith does not clearly say, or we don't have a narration that clearly says it is prohibited to travel under the means of transportation when it is raining. We don't have a clear hadith. So Sayyidina, why did you conclude that it is obligatory precaution? From this hadith of kafara, because prohibition is normally associated with a penalty. So if there is a penalty, then traveling under the means of transportation, shaded means of transportation when it's raining should be haram. Should be haram, because if there is penalty, then, but not every time penalty indicates, obligation of penalty indicates something is done haram, like the cases of necessity, the cases of compulsion. So if there is a penalty, it doesn't mean that you are committing haram, that thing is prohibited. No, there are times where you are not committing haram, you are compelled to, and you pay penalty. So he says, it has been narrated by authentic narration that kafara becomes obligated when a person is traveling under the person shades himself from the rain. However, walam yarid, there is no narration about prohibition from preventing yourself from the rain. وحيث. Okay, so there is one for kafara penalty under because of the rain, but there is no that haram, prohibited. You should not travel under the means of transportation if it's raining. There's no such narration there. Okay, ولم يرد نص صحيح في حرمة التستر منه. Okay, then Sayyidina, how did you realize that we cannot travel if it's raining? وحيث أن الملازمة بين ثبوت الكفارة وحرمة الفعل غير مؤكدة. There are times if the narration says kafara, there's evidence that the thing was prohibited. But then there are times where people are excused and they do out of excuse, sickness, whatever, there is still kafara. So the kafara could be in the halal scenario, kafara could be in the haram scenario. So it is not necessary that the kafara is applied on only haram scenario. The kafara is also applied on halal scenario, the penalty where you have an excuse and this and that. So therefore, he says, because it is not sure that every penalty indicates prohibition, I have chosen to put a precautionary measure here, that you have to avoid traveling under shaded means of transportation if it was raining, and we did not give that it is prohibited. We did not give the fatwa of prohibition to do so, because not every kafara indicates that you have committed haram. Okay, kafara could be for other reasons, not necessarily doing haram. Necessity, we said, you're compelled to go under that, but you have to pay kafara. So it says وحرمة الفعل غير مؤكدة. And if the kafara is fixed, the kafara is proven, the prohibition of that action is not confirmed. So because the association between the application of kafara and prohibition of fi'l, the association is not proven, not confirmed here, not confirmed here, غير مؤكدة. احتطنا, we chose to use the precautionary measure that one should not travel under the means of transportation when it is raining, and we did not also give fatwa that it is haram. Okay, so let's say if I choose to travel under the means of transportation and I give kafara, did my haram, that the ruling of prohibition haram is removed? Like I said, halal bribery or whatever. Let me pay kafara and just travel. I don't want to go up and this and that. Not for harm, not for anything. Just like, no, 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 no. Let me just pay kafara. Kafara is not bribery, Baba. You're not going to bribe Allah. Allah, take this goat, but allow me to go inside. So the Sharia says, can you travel up? Yes, I can travel, but I don't want to travel up. I don't know if I don't feel like traveling up. This is what we hear a lot. I don't feel like. Okay, you feel like, I'll take you to hell. So you don't feel like, no, that doesn't. The responsibility is still there. So he says, is the responsibility of the act being prohibited removed just by choosing to pay penalty? No, it is not removed, because that exceptional case is for the necessities. Question number 33. هل يجب على من تعلقت به كفارة التضليل الاحتراز من التضليل مجددا? This is about the repetition, okay, of the kafara. And we said one penalty per ihram. Okay. So is it obligatory upon a person whom the penalty of shading على من تعلق بالاحتراز من التضليل مجددا، أم يجوز لو بعد ذلك بعد أن تعلقت الكفارة بذمته. Let me see this question. هل يجب يجب not يجوز. هل يجب على من تعلقت به كفارة التضليل؟ Is it obligatory upon someone who has been obligated to pay the penalty of shading to avoid from further shading, or is it permissible for him to continue shading as long as the kafara he has to pay? He says no. We said no. If you are able to avert the shading, then do it. If not, then it's not. Then you're continuously committing haram. So لا يجوز له التضليل اختيارا ما لم يخرج من إحرامه. In optional cases, he can. But I'm already going to pay kafara. That's fine. But still, the prohibition is there. لا يجوز له التضليل. It is not permissible for him to go to go under the shade or to use the shaded means of transportation optionally, voluntarily, ما لم يخرج من إحرامه. As long as he does not exit from one ihram, he cannot. Yeah. So ruling number 34. That's an interesting. Okay. So let's say someone else shaded you. Remember the umbrella guy surrounding you, this umbrella guy, that umbrella guy. إذا قام الغير بالتضليل على المحرم. If someone else shaded, okay, or used a shade or shaded on a person who's in the state of ihram. حال سيره, while they were traveling, walking, okay. So who's going to pay kafara? The one who was shaded by some other, or that person, or both of them? So is the kafara, is the penalty going to be applied upon him, the one who was shaded by someone, or upon the shader, the one who provided the shade, or upon both of them? So he says, لا تثبت الكفارة على ذلك الغير. That other person, he will not be required to pay the kafara because he shaded you. The kafara will be applied on the person who's muhrim, in the state of ihram. Okay? إذا كان متمكنا من التخلص عنه. If he had the ability to avoid that person's shading. ولم يفعل, and he did not. He was able to, and he did not. ولو خوف الضرر على نفسه, even though out of the fear. So basically, kafara will not be applied for that person, the one who shaded. The kafara will be applied on the person who received the shade, the recipient of the shade. If this person was able to get rid of that shading, and even if he was like ولم يفعل, and he did not, he was able to avoid, but he did not, even out of fear of harm. ولو لخوف الضرر على نفسه. So, but kafara will be there. Yes, it will not be haram. We take a few rulings and we call it a day. إذا أجبر المحرم. إذا أجبر. It's the same thing about the authorities preventing that person, okay, from is compelled. If the authorities compelled the person who's in the state of ihram to go under the shaded means of transportation, will there be any penalty? So here it's all about, the question is about penalty Agha is trying to clear permissibility or not permissibility, and then he tackles the kafara issue. إذا لم يكن. So now here a scenario is a totally different scenario. إذا أجبر المحرم من قبل السلطان على التضليل. What does that mean? The authorities did not compel him to go inside bus. No, he got arrested. Nothing in his hand. Because if authority compels you, still you can try your ways out. But here, he got arrested. Okay? And now he's forced to. See, there's a force and there's compel. Same like we mentioned in this ruling of fasting. If somebody pull the gun on your head and told you to eat, so you ate, will there be any qada, make up? Yes, there will be a qada. If there will be a make-up, you have to make up the fast, qada. Or will there be any penalty? No, no penalty. Because you were compelled. See, compelled is different than forceful. Now, in another scenario, some gang guy, they want to make a prank on you and you're fasting, and these people were not decent people. They tied your hand and they opened your mouth and they started putting food in your mouth and or liquid in a way that is going all the way. And you kept saying, no, 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 no. Now the food has gone inside. So do you have kafara? Obviously no kafara. I was forced to. The question is, do you have qada? So he says no qada. Why? Because here he was not compelled. In compelled, there's an irada element. There's an intentional element. Even though you're compelled, okay, but you have made the intention to eat. So you have to do qada. Here, no, you're resisting. No, 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 no. They kept putting the thing in your mouth. So here, you are forced to, that there is no makeup. Your fast is correct. Even they inserted the whole thing, satisfied my stomach. That's fine. Here, you're forced to. So there's a difference between forced to and compelled to. So let's see this scenario. Is it talking about forced to or compelled to? So إذا أجبر المحرم, is forced to by the authorities to use the shade. Is there any kafara? إذا لم يكن قادرا على التخلص منه, if he did not have any option to avoid it. Okay, the force of the authority. لم تجب عليه الكفارة. There will be no kafara, no penalty on him. وإذا كان قادرا على التخلص, however, if he was able to avert that compelling situation or forceful situation, that means this time it was compelling. He was able to. He was forced to, but he had an option to get rid of this situation. ولم يفعل, and he did not do. ولو لأجل التجنب عن الضرر المحتمل, even though it was to avoid any harmful consequences, probable harmful consequences. وجبت عليه الكفارة. So we can see in a forceful condition where you don't have any option at all, any potential option, any real option, you don't have it, then there'll be no kafara, no penalty. But if there was, but you did not choose because you had a probability that if I don't do what they say, even though I have an option, but then I'll be in serious trouble, okay, which will be tolerable. Then yes, it is in this case. In this case, you will have to pay the kafara because you were able to avert, but you did not, even for the harmful purpose. It would harm for you, probably harmful purpose, harmful uh, consequences. So kafara will be there. Yeah, this is an interesting question. Question number 36. If a muhrim person who's in the state of ihram, he was enjoying his traveling into the shaded means of transportation at night, say the Sistani's follower, and there's no rain, then it rained during the journey. So what should he do? فهل يجب إيقاف السيارة? Is it obligatory to stop the car? And what if the driver did not obey, or the law did not give permission? Traffic law did not allow him to just stand in the middle of the highway or something like that. So will that be any kafara? He says يجب إيقاف السيارة عن الحركة مدة نزول المطر. It is obligatory, obviously if it's in your hand, to stop the car from moving during the duration of the raining, the duration of raining. So the time of raining, the car needs to be stopped. أو النزول منها إذا كان متمكنا من ذلك, or getting off the car if he was able to do that. ولو لم يفعل, and if he does not do that, why? Fear from harm. Okay, what type of harm? From violating the traffic laws. مثلا, for example, فلا حرج عليه, then it's okay. There is no harm on this person to continue traveling. Okay, there no فلا إثم عليه, there is no sin upon that person. So we're talking about haram and halal. فلا فلا حرج عليه ولكن تلزم الكفارة. وأما إذا لم يكن متمكنا من النزول من السيارة بأي صورة كان, there was no any other way, no option for him. And this is interesting. It seems to be a new ruling. That's why it's in the late numbers. Because as we have been saying that no, if he had an option, then there will be a penalty. If there's no option, there's no penalty. But traveling into the aeroplane, you don't have any option to take a parachute and get off. So فلا حرج عليه. But there will be kafara. But this scenario is interesting. وأما إذا لم يكن متمكنا من النزول من السيارة بأي صورة. However, if he was not able to get off the car in any condition, then there is no sin upon him, neither kafara. That's interesting. That's interesting. Neither kafara. So that means it is like a forceful scenario. He is like the driver doesn't stop. So you are forced to sit in the car and it's raining. The driver would stop, but the authorities would not stop you. So you are forced to stay in the car. The same ruling shows you that you are able to, but you did not due to the harm. So you continued, that you chose to continue. So you pay kafara. The second scenario, you are not able to. From this, we can understand the ruling of aeroplane. Because an aeroplane, no way you can get out of the aeroplane. من كان راكبا في السيارة. We'll take this few because it's all in the same line. Whoever was in the car traveling, shaded means نزل المطر, rain started falling. So what happens? Whoever was in the car, من كان راكبا في السيارة, traveling in the car at night, shaded means of transportation, and he was in the state of ihram and rain started to fall. So if he does not stop immediately, will there be any kafara penalty? إذا لم يكن قادرا على إيقاف السيارة, if he was not able to stop the car, he's in the middle of the highway, traffic control, police control, whatever reasons he's not able to. أو النزول منها حين بدأ المطر, or getting off the car, out of the car when the rain is falling. Okay, فلا شيء عليه, because it was not in his hand. He was compelled to. He was forced to sit in the car. The shurta were saying, حرك حرك حرك, and it's raining and he needs to get out. So he's forced to sit in the car, compelled to. Okay, he can't stop immediately, or he cannot get out of it. So there will be no kafara, no penalty upon it. إذا لم يكن قادرا على إيقاف السيف, if is not able to at all stop the car or get off the car, then there is nothing upon him, no kafara. This is all these rulings are recent, because هل تجب الكفارة على الرجال المحرمين المرافقين للنساء إذا ركبوا السيارة? Now, what about the associate, the caretaker? You know, the caretaker, there are a lot of things exempt from them. So there's a caretaker wife, caretaker children, caretaker elderly in the car, your relative. And you have to be inside with them in case if they need medicine, they need anything, the child needs food, whatever. So will there be any kafara if you are compelled to be with us, with your family members? That's fine. There will be no haram, no prohibition, because they need you, but you are not forced to. Okay, so you have to pay the penalty. So he says على الرجال محرمين, men who are accompanying the women or the children or those elderly, anyhow. So they are accompanying their women. If they get in the car in the daytime, will there be any kafara? He says yes. إذا استلزم التضليل المحرم. If this process of going with the traveling, escorting the women is going to cause you to be under the shaded means of transportation, obviously there will be penalty. Question 39. What is the... Yeah, it's interesting. If a person travels under the shaded means of transportation at night, he sleeps and the rain falls, and he does not know. Later on, he was told, the rain was falling. Really? When was that? Why you are snoring like crazy? Okay, you're saying labbaik with your snoring. So, yeah. So he did not have any knowledge about any. He was sleeping. وهو لا يعلم بذلك, and he did not know. Later on, he was informed. ثم علم به, and it was raining. فطلب إيقاف السيارة عن السير فورا. He said, please stop the car instantly, immediately. Maybe he was the guide. He's telling the bus to stop immediately. فتم له ذلك. فهل عليه شيء? So he stopped the car. So now he slept in the car while they were transporting, while the rain was falling. But then later on, he was able to wake up and get off, and the car was stopped. And now, he was able to get out of the car or even sit in the car, but he was not traveling. So he says that there's no kafara on him, because the moment he realized, he immediately stopped them. And we'll stop here until question number 40. عدم جواز التضليل بعد الدخول في مكة المكرمة في مكة وقبل وصوله للمنزل. فتوى مبنية على احتياط. We said that the intercity transportation, we have mentioned this several times, is based on obligatory precaution. And we have like about 12 questions left. We'll leave it for our next session. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين والسلام عليكم ورحمة